Hello, my name is Tides Royale, but you can call me Tides. A while back, I came across one of my absolute favorite YouTubers, Mad Season Show, and his WoW Memories playlist really made me miss my beginning in WoW, and it inspired me to try and share my own WoW story. Moreover, I always wanted to jog my memory and try my best to retrace my steps back to my origin in WoW and chronicle all the good, bad, and even sad stories that took place in my time spent in World of Warcraft. Before I played WoW, or any MMORPG for that matter, I feel the need to very briefly preface my gaming footprint, just to kind of give you an understanding of where I was coming from before beginning my WoW journey. I was a console gamer, primarily a Nintendo fanboy. Also, a few of the games that hugely shaped my perspective on life and the world around me were Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, The Wind Waker, Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy Advanced Tactics, and Animal Crossing. I never did any serious PC gaming until years later when I first started junior college and really had a need for my own laptop.
At this point, I already dabbled into a few MMORPGs, mainly free ones such as RuneScape. But the first MMORPG that pretty much almost got me hooked in was MapleStory. This was a free online MMORPG done by Nexon, and I was hooked on the very cute art style and the immersive, very soothing soundtrack. One of the signature characters in this game was one of the ads from the starting zone. It was this orange, squishy looking mushroom, and I was really drawn to its vibrant colors and cutesy look. Now here you get a glimpse of what the character sign-in screen looked like, as well as the character creation screen. I was really digging the autumn theme that I got when I'd sign into the game. Here are a few of the starting jobs or classes. I really liked how the warriors reminded me of little bucket heads. However, the class that I would settle upon first would be the magicians. Thanks to a lot of prior outside influences, such as J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, I was already a fan of being able to stand from afar and have access to a wide variety of ranged spells and abilities. With MapleStory, I got my first taste of what it was like to be in a fantasy world and immerse with other players. I got to group up with other players and take down monsters. I got help with quests. I gathered materials for crafting. There was a lot to do in this game. Eventually, however, two huge factors would convince me to move on to bigger and better games. The first one being the very strong lack of communication between myself and other players, mainly due to the huge language gap or even the age gap. The second major downside for the game was the excessive gold farm spam to be found within the game. Now, MapleStory was a side-scrolling platform MMORPG, and just seeing all the intense gold farm spam blowing up on your screen was just very, very much a downside for me, and the game was no longer beautiful to me, so I had to say goodbye. So what did I do next? Well, this was early March of 2007, shortly after World of Warcraft's release of their expansion, The Burning Crusade. I walked into my local GameStop, the holiest grail of all video game stores from back in the day. I remember it was at the huge mall in Cerritos. This was in Los Angeles. And I walked in and I approached one of the GameStop employees and I said, "Hey, I'm looking to get into MMORPGs. What do you recommend?" Now, the shop staff at GameStop recommended two choices for me. So he told me, "All right, I'm gonna name two of them for you. This first one, Guild Wars, just came out. It's pretty new. And what's great about it is there's no paid subscription. You can play for free." Then he picked up another game box, put it in my hand, and he said, "Now this one's World of Warcraft. This one's been around for a while, but it's got such a big name, I'm surprised you have not heard about it. It also has a new expansion that just came out recently. You might be interested in it. There's multiple classes in this game, multiple races compared to Guild Wars, so you may like this as well, but there is a paid subscription you'd have to pay every month to play this game." Now, as you can imagine, I was faced with a bit of a dilemma. Here I was with two games in my hands, and I could not decide which one to buy first. On the one hand, Guild Wars was free to play, there was no subscription, but I could only play as a human. Whereas World of Warcraft, I could play as multiple races, two different eternal conflict factions, but I had to pay. And the fact that I had to pay was just a concept that I could not wrap my mind around. It was just so completely off-putting. But in the end, I could not make a decision, so I ended up buying both games. Now, to give you a bit of perspective on the general time period for when I bought these two games, here are the release dates for both games. You'll see there at the bottom of the list, that is my original start date for when I first started playing World of Warcraft. Now, I may have not started in Classic, but I did start well enough early to be able to see all the content well before it was taken out for Wrath of the Lich King, and especially the onslaught of the Cataclysm expansion. Further, I think it's worth mentioning that I went ahead and bought the expansion Burning Crusade, even though I was not 100% certain that I would end up even keeping the game. So when I got home that night, I looked at both boxes for the games, and I was trying to decide which game box I would open up first. And I looked at World of Warcraft's game art, and this is one of the photos that was included on the box art, and I took one peek at that gnome at the far back left, and I was like, nope, no way, there's no way I'm gonna play this game with that childish art style.
So, I installed the game Guild Wars, and I signed in, and I created my first characters. I was instantly captivated by the soundtrack of the game, and what blew my mind away was the stunning art style and the graphics. I really loved the realistic look that the humans had. It didn't matter so much to me that there were no multiple races available, because I was in love with how these humans looked. They were very beautiful. So these are not my original characters. I tried my best to mimic what I remember making, but this was definitely my first character ever made. It was a human elementalist. I named him Ocean Crest, and I never played Fire Emblem back in the day, but people have often told me, even in WoW, because I made a mage in WoW by the same name, they would often tell me, hey, did you ever play Fire Emblem? Because Ocean Crest was an important item in that game. And I was like, no, I never did. But yeah, that's just a short story there. But this was the very first character I made. It was an elementalist by the name of Ocean Crest. And I loved the look of them. My god, they looked amazing. And then I also made a hunter, it was a ranger. They were called rangers in this game. And I named him Gaia Crest. I really loved the idea of having a pet, because I was such an outdoorsy nature-loving guy. Then I also made a Mesmer. I don't remember what I named my original Mesmer, so the name I have here is not the one I had for my original one. And I did not make a monk back then, but I did make this when I recently purchased this game just for making my WoW journal or memory videos. But I do quite like the look of this monk female. But yeah, those are the characters, the first three characters I made in Guild Wars. What really drew me into the world of Guild Wars was the soundtrack and the realistic looking humans. I loved the more realistic art style, not so much dark, but definitely a lot more mature or darker than, let's say, World of Warcraft's graphics and art style. So I really was captivated by the game at first. One thing, though, that I did not like, that I already came to notice, was the outside world was empty. Unless I had other players in my party, I could not see anyone except for NPCs. But even then, it wasn't so bad. Like, the voice acting for some of the quests was really great. Another thing I did not like at all about Guild Wars was, even for the time, it was not very noob friendly. Like, especially the interface design. I was very confused. Even now I am. I'm still confused. I don't know how to navigate around the interface. Like, the menu looked like this. This is what the interface looked like. It was not simple at all. So I was definitely lost when I first started playing this game. And look at this. Just to exit out of all these interface options, I would have to keep pressing the escape button. Another major factor that made me not enjoy the game so much was the loading screens that you would get when you would enter new zones or areas. And the hugest factor that I did not like about the game was that if I wanted to see other players, other human players, and get my human interaction into an MMORPG, I would have to come to Ascalon City, or a major hub or major town, to see other players. And right now, as you can see, it's dead because I just recently purchased this game again for the second time, just for video editing purposes. But back in the day, this place was filled with other players. But because the user interface was not really well designed, even that prevented me from talking to other players or interacting with them through other means. So I'd say after about a week or a week and a half tops of playing Guild Wars, I decided to take a break and give World of Warcraft a go. I guess I was frustrated that I could not get into a dungeon so easily in the game, and I did end up getting quite high enough in level so that I could do my first dungeon, and then I remember specifically getting so distraught and overwhelmed because I got left behind by my party as a new player. They just left me behind, and I believe I was on my mage, or my hunter it was, and I got left behind, and that really made me second guess my playtime in this game, and that's when I decided to install World of Warcraft.
So far, you heard about my brief gaming history, my first MMORPG, MapleStory, getting help from my friendly neighborhood GameStop, and my short-lived Guild Wars holiday. Guild Wars was now a brief chapter in my life that has come to a close, and with it, the start of another, World of Warcraft. Can you guess what character I would make first? In the next episode, I'll tell you about my first WoW character and my first questing buddies. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did putting it together. I take great joy in sharing my WoW stories as I do hearing from others. I'm curious, what were your first MMORPGs? What led you down the path toward World of Warcraft? Do let me know in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode. If you enjoyed my content, follow me on Twitch, and I hope to see you there. Catch ya!